My name is Diane Cescutti. I'm a transmedia artist, and the piece that I'm presenting is named No Sukai. And now I will introduce you to my work with a short video, and I will talk over it to introduce you about my practice and also the piece that I'll be showing. Layer 1, structure. Plain twill, satin, double weave, triple weave, pocket weave. Two sets of opposing threads cross at right angle to form a flat canvas. Here, in its most basic form, is the principle of weaving. Vertical threads are called warp, horizontal threads are called weft. The aim of all weaving is to create a flexible plane by the right angle meeting of an even and odd number of threads. A pattern in weaving is essentially a set of crossing between these vertical and horizontal threads, which form a grid. To weave, an equal tension needs to be applied to each thread of the warp. Weaving the logic of weaving, there is no half states. A certain number of threads are raised, another lowered, to allow between them the travel of a weft. Now imagine, when a thread of the warp goes above a thread of the weft, you call that a zero. And when a thread of the weft goes above a thread of the warp, you call that a 1. Then, the whole weave can be summarized as a matrix using binary entries. Here you have computer code as you know it. So my work as an artist unfold between an approach of weaving and digital questioning. I start from the loom at the origin of computation, and I end up with the dematerialization of fiber in virtual spaces. So with my work, I try to trace back the history of computer code and show how it's entangled with the one of weaving. And following the history of crossing fiber together, I end up with the actual form of weaving, which is its algorithm. I travel down the thread of my loom, and I fall into the weft of my computer. And I try to rethink our relationship to computer with keeping that in mind, not only from a visual approach, but also trying to include haptic and tactile experience in the work that I do. And it's a way for me to rethink the question of texture, of thickness in video space, but also in sculptures and textile production, and to rethink the potential of weaving and textile weaving fiction, speculation, and installation. I work with weaving as a medium, but weaving is also for me a way of thinking. The thinking of entangling matters together. And that is why with my practice, I move forward with a lot of different medium, which is weaving, video, installation, video game, fiction, 3D, writing, and sculpture. And I intertwine all that together to form this great tapestry that is my practice. Layer 2, fibers, natural, animal, vegetal, or mineral. Wool, silk, cotton, raffia, linen, fiberglass. Chemical, artificial or synthetic. Cellulose, nylon, acrylic, polyester, Kevlar. From sea, the world was created, the visible and the invisible. Within 8 days, sea created the whole universe. At the dawn of the first day, sea created matter, structure, fibers, texture. The texture of the earth, the texture of the river in which you rinse the dye cloth, the texture of plants, the texture of cotton, the texture of raffia, and millions of other textures. They are everywhere in the universe, and you delight in it. You take what the sea has given you and turn into fiber, cutting, twisting, cooking, until you have threads, ropes, strands, strips that you pass through the loom. For me, weaving allow me to go back between material and virtual world. I put weaving at the interface between those two spaces because weaving has simultaneously a dense material thick aspect and a texture, but also it has a discrete property, a discrete as in the mathematical sense, which means that all weave can be described and explained using finite number, and they can be computerized. So for me, reintegrating textile into the history of the digital mean reintegrating the question of texture, but also craftsmanship and people, because I want to go back to the definition of what a computer was before 1950. And at that time, a computer, the term was used to describe either a machine or an individual that compute information. Now, this definition has evolved to the point where we think that computers are only machine, and we have removed the human aspect of this definition. For me, also means honoring vernacular mathematical knowledge. In other words, the mathematical processes and tradition specific to textile craft. And those technique and knowledge really contributed heavily to the development of technology. For example, in 1953, Hilda G. Carpenter was an African-American technician at the MIT, and she was the first one to create a type of computer memory that is based on using weaving techniques. And those were the first memories that were used to land rockets on the moon, and they were called magnetic core memories, and they were woven by hands by women. Layer 3, knots. Flat knot, simple knot, river knot, slip knot, tie knot, half hitches. You tie the thread tightly to your tool until you achieve uniform tension. And it's in this state of constraint that you work. Weaving on a loom like the one you use, a warp beam loom, also means accepting that the woven object is hidden from view. You wind it into the front beam as you go along, and the work you start disappears for hours, days, months. The whole thing remains invisible until the final gesture of cutting the thread, until you extract the object from the tool, freeing it from the warp beam in a gesture of revelation. In the meantime, it slips into an interstice of your memory, partially forgotten. You'll never see the whole fabric until you untie the knot that binds it to the machine. So in 2022, I traveled to Senegal for the first time, and here this is where I met with Edima Rosa, which is a weaver, a manjac weaver, and he uses a specific technique called manjac weaving. And I start learning this technique with him. It's a technique that comes from Guinea-Bissau, but that you also find in Senegal. And for me, it was kind of a new, discovering a new part of the history of computer and loom, because the manjac loom is a loom that uses two people to create really precise and intricate patterns that almost look like pixels. And for me, it was also the rarest form of experience of something I've been talking about for a long time in my practice, the fact that weaving is a language, it's an applied language, a code. And Edimar and I, when we worked together on the weaving for the piece that will be exhibited in Nosukai, we didn't have any spoken language in common. The only language we had in common was the language of weaving, and it's thanks to our ability to speak in the language of the thread that we were able to work together. So with this research and my time in Senegal and this experience, I create Nosukai, which means computer in Wolof, the language most spoken in Senegal. And it's a kind of experimental computer made of thread and cable, interactive installation that invite the people, to the user, to position himself or herself within the narrative to reveal different part of the video game, of the experience, as she use and touch the fabrics that we work together with Edima as a keyboard. During the making of the 3D visual for Nosukai, my computer crashed down in a violent way, overheating and feverish, looping infinitely on Windows 11 update. And without the Windows interface, I could see the file of Nosukai and my work without any operating system. And he was welcoming me with this eerie blue screen of death. And this is the exact screen that you see when you start interacting with Nosukai. You see you are welcomed by this blue screen of death that that is, how to say, it's a way to tell that we have to first crash down the way we think about technology to be able to receive another way of thinking about them. So as I dive into the blue sea of my screen, trying to see if my files are safe at the time, I see them unscattered, but unreadable, because to use a computer, you need an operating system. But the weaving and Nosukai, in a way, is a new kind of operating system. Without the loom, there is no way to read textile, and in that sense, it works just like a computer. I resurrected my electronic devices from a 6 GB USB key, and I reinstalled all of my software, and I welcome this news that my computer crashed like an epiphany, and it was a way to, how to say, this experience showed me how it's not about the information. The information was there. It's about the tools that you use to read them. And I think a loom is a kind of tool to read information that is stored within textile. Layer 4, machine. 1 3 2 4 1 3 2 4 1 3 2 4 1 3 2 4 1 2 2 3 3 4 1 4 1 2 2 3 3 4 1 4. You alternate arms and foot movement, lowering the pedal in a quaternary rhythm. Your weaving has 2 bodies. One material, dense, thick, made of interlocking fiber and thread, and another virtual, made of number and data, algorithmic. A second body that cannot help but emerge in the first one, but also migrate into other spaces and medium. You always weave 2 objects, the weave and its blueprint. It's called dump. For those who know to read, the code is there, visible to the naked eyes. In the thread, it's not even hidden. When someone asks you where you got this knowledge from, you answer that you got it from the weave itself. It hasn't lied to you. It gives you this information with the utmost honesty. So now I would like to introduce you a little bit to the technique of that is Menjak weaving. So stop this and show.
Tiga bodoh yang mulu bisa. Kalau ni banyak mulu bang bisa. Boleh mulu bang.
So I wanted to share with you those images so you can see that Menjak weaving use really kind of rudimentary tools, and those tools, even though they seem really minimal, thanks to them, the weavers are able to create really complex patterns. So you see me assuming two positions in the video, the one when I'm the main weaver and I'm doing weaving without any pattern, and the one when I'm lifting thread. And the position when I'm lifting thread is the one that with more modern loom, like the one that I have just behind me, this position is replaced by a mechanism, but because it's replaced, because the human was removed, it doesn't allow to make such extensive pattern and such complex pattern, because the way Menjak weaving works is you can create not infinite, but a really high amount of headers that will hold the pattern, and thanks to that you're able to create those really complex pattern. And one point that is really important to understand is that those patterns are not drawings, they are calculated. When you see in the video a moment where there is like a wooden stick between the thread, and those sticks lift a certain number of threads, and that's how you get one line of the pattern. And each line is calculated by looking at a sample or looking at an image and trying to translate it into the code of the loom. So yes, that's it for this presentation. Thank you very much. So for me as an artist, to create means first to pay attention to what is already there and what might have been missed, erased, or maybe forgotten. I don't think ideas comes out of thin air. I think the act of creation is first an act of witnessing, and then create something new from that, rearranging relationship between material, human, medium, thoughts. And for me, when I work, I also ask myself, is it relevant? Does it make sense? Is it generous? I think nowadays, creation is a little bit different than what it used to be, because we live in the era of content when we are overwhelmed with a lot of things, and going back to this generosity, either it's for yourself or for others allow us to think about what is the purpose. Why do I want to create this thing? So it's something I think a lot about when I create a new piece. So for me, to open means to extend the realm of possibilities and imaginaries. What I try to do with my work is to extend the definition of what technologies and computer are to re-include humans and softness and textile. And it's a way to also say that, this technology, they belong to us, because sometimes it might feel they are so far away from us, but bringing back the human into it and the textile, because weaving and textile is something that is universal, it brings them closer to us. And also going back to the generosity that I was talking about, for me to be open and to open the artwork is I want to give more agency to the viewers and to the user, and to offer them different possibility of interaction with the artwork. With Nosukai, you get tutorials that explain to you how to use the keyboard, but there's so many ways to interact with it in just the way you touch it. You can press it, tap it, caress it, and it's also, you can use it with kids, you can use it by 2 people, 3 people, 4 people. So you have this room for freedom and how you're going to touch, and this tactile experience is, yes, for me, it's a way to give more agency also to the people that are interacting with the art piece.